It was just a normal afternoon. The sun wasn't too hot, and the air was calm. He had just finished picking up his son from school. They laughed in the car, spoke about how the teacher forgot to collect homework, and made a quick plan for dinner. There was nothing serious on his mind, just a normal day. He parked outside the small grocery store near their street, the one with the old sliding door that always made a squeaky sound. His son asked for frozen pizza and chocolate milk. He nodded and grabbed a basket. The store was almost empty, just a few people walking around quietly. Nothing felt different until they reached the counter. Behind the register stood a young girl. She looked like she was barely in her 20s. Her hair was tied back, and her uniform shirt looked a bit too big on her small frame. But what caught his attention wasn't how she looked. It was what she was trying hard to hide. Her hands, they were shaking. At first, he thought maybe she was just cold. The AC in the store was strong. But no, it wasn't that kind of shaking. It was the kind that comes when you're nervous or scared. She fumbled while scanning items. A can rolled off the counter and dropped to the floor. She quickly bent to pick it up, mumbling a quiet sorry. He smiled politely, trying to make her feel at ease. "It's all right, no rush," he said gently. But she didn't respond. She just nodded, barely meeting his eyes. The boy looked up at his father, a little confused. "Dad, is she okay?" He gave a small nod, unsure himself. He looked at her. Hands again, still shaking. The moment felt longer than it was. Something inside him whispered that something wasn't right. This wasn't someone just having a stressful day. There was a kind of silence around her, a heavy kind. As she bagged the groceries, he noticed she kept her head down. Her hands fumbled again. The milk carton almost slipped. She caught it just in time. Still, not a word from her lips. Finally, he reached for his wallet and handed her a card. "You all right?" he asked softly. "Your hands, they're shaking." Her body froze for a moment, like she hadn't expected anyone to notice or care. She paused while holding the receipt. Then, without looking up, she whispered, "I'm fine, sir," but it didn't sound fine. Not at all. Her voice cracked slightly, like someone who'd been holding in too much for too long. He didn't want to make her uncomfortable, so he nodded and didn't ask again. But as he took the bag, the feeling didn't leave him. As he walked out, his son tugged at his sleeve. "Dad," she looked sad. "I know," he said quietly. They sat in the car, but he didn't start the engine right away. He looked back at the store through the windshield. The girl had already moved to the next customer, smiling a little, but not with her eyes. Something about her stuck with him. Maybe it was because he had seen that same kind of silence in someone else long ago. Someone who had also said "I'm fine" when they weren't. The world is full of quiet pain. Some people scream, some cry, but some just stand at the register, scan your groceries, and hope no one asks why their hands won't stop shaking. He had seen many cashiers before. Busy ones, tired ones, even grumpy ones. But not like this. He looked at his son again. "Let's come back tomorrow," he said. "Why?" "Just feel like it." That night, after dinner, he kept thinking about her. Who was she? Why was she working if she was that unwell? Was it health? Was it fear? He tried to forget, but the image of her trembling hands and that cracked voice kept playing in his mind. He didn't even know her name. But something told him this wasn't over. The next day felt different. He didn't really need anything from the store. But after work, he found himself driving toward it again. Something inside told him to check. Just once more. He wasn't sure what he was looking for. Maybe just peace of mind. Or maybe he couldn't shake off that girl's face, her trembling hands, and the way she said "I'm fine," like it was the only answer she was allowed to give. When he stepped inside the store, it looked just like yesterday. Same soft music, same dull lights, same quiet air, And there she was, at the same register. She was alone at the counter, wiping down the scanner, looking tired. She didn't notice him at first. He picked up a few items just to have something to buy: bread, eggs, and a bottle of water. As he walked up to her counter, she looked up, and for a second, something flashed across her face. Recognition? Surprise? He couldn't tell. She started scanning quietly, her hands still not steady. "You're working again today?" he asked, trying to keep his tone light. She nodded. "Yeah, every day." "That must be hard," he said gently. "Especially when your hands are hurting." She looked down. Her grip tightened on the water bottle. "I'm okay," she said again, but this time it sounded more like a reflex. Then a truth. He nodded slowly. "I don't mean to bother you. I just wanted to check if you're all right. You seem like someone who might need a little kindness." She paused for a moment, then glanced around to make sure no one else was close. Her voice was barely a whisper. I can't talk about it." He didn't push. He just handed her the payment and said quietly, "If you ever need help, or just someone to talk to, here." He slid a small paper across the counter. It had his name and number on it. She looked at it like it was something strange. She didn't take it right away. She just stared at it, her hands frozen in midair. "I'm just a neighbor," he added. "A single dad. No pressure at all. Just if you need anything." For a few seconds, there was silence between them. Then she quickly took the paper and slipped it into her pocket, eyes still downcast. He gave her a small smile. "Take care." "Okay." She nodded once. "Thank you." That was the first time she said anything with meaning. As he walked out of the store, he felt something shift. A wall had cracked, even if only slightly. Later that night, after he had put his son to bed and washed the dishes, his phone buzzed. He didn't expect any messages. Most people who had his number were already asleep or busy. It was a number he didn't recognize. The message was short. "Hi. I'm the girl from the store. I don't know why I'm texting. Thank you." He stared at the screen for a moment, then replied, "You're welcome. No need to explain anything. I'm glad you're okay." She didn't reply for a long while. Then another message came. "I'm not okay, but I want to be." That line hit harder than anything else. He sat down, holding the phone like it was something delicate. He typed slowly. "That's brave of you to say. You don't have to talk about anything if you're not ready. But I'm here." A few moments passed. Then she wrote again. "My name is not important, but I go home every night scared. I come to work because it's the only place I can breathe, even a little." He felt a weight in his chest. The kind of pain you feel when someone finally shares what they've been holding in for too long. "I don't know what happened," he replied, "but I want you to know what you're feeling matters. You deserve peace." There was no answer. After that, but he didn't need one, he had opened a door. Just a little. And now she knew she wasn't invisible anymore. He turned off his phone and sat in the silence. Outside the window, the streetlights flickered. Somewhere not too far away, a girl was finally letting herself be seen, even if only in whispers. The next morning came quietly. He had slept, but not deeply. His thoughts kept returning to the girl from the store, her soft messages, her fear, and the silent pain she tried to hide from everyone. He checked his phone. No new messages. But he wasn't disappointed. Sometimes just saying something once takes all the strength someone has. He got his son ready for school and dropped him off like usual. But after that, he didn't head straight to work. Instead, he made a short detour to the grocery store again. She wasn't there. The manager, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, stood at the counter. He recognized him from before. The man gave a nod, then looked back down at his papers. "Morning," he said politely. "I was wondering, the young girl who usually works here, is she okay?" The manager looked up, a little cautious. "Why do you ask?" "I just noticed she seemed..." Unwell, he said gently. Didn't want to pry, just concerned. The man sighed. She's quiet, yeah, doesn't talk much. Shows up on time, never late. Hard-working girl. He paused, then added, had a few customers mention she. Looks nervous sometimes, but she's never said anything. Just tells us she's fine. There it was again, that same word. He nodded. All right, thanks. As he turned to leave, the manager spoke again. You're not the first to ask. But she never lets anyone in. That told him something. She had been alone in this for a long time. Later that evening, just as he was helping his son with homework, his phone buzzed. It was her. I'm sorry I didn't text today. I stayed home. I was too scared to go out. He replied calmly. That's okay. I just wanted to know you're all right. A few seconds passed. Then another message appeared. Can I ask you something? Of course. Do you think people deserve a second chance? Even after staying silent for too long? His fingers paused over the screen. He took a breath and replied, I think everyone deserves a second chance. Especially people who've been hurt and are trying to heal. There was a long pause. Then she said, it's not just me. I have a little brother. I try to protect him. That's why I work. But I don't think I can do this much longer. He felt that weight again. The heavy kind that fills your chest and makes you feel helpless. You're doing the best you can, he wrote. That's strength, not weakness. She didn't reply right away, but a few minutes later, she sent a voice message. He hesitated. Then played it. Her voice trembled. I get home, and I have to act like everything's normal. I cook. I help my brother with his schoolwork. But the moment I hear the front door open, my hands start shaking. I try to keep my head down. I try not to be noticed. But I'm always walking on eggshells. He closed his eyes. Her fear was real. Too real. He didn't know the full story yet. But he didn't need every detail to know something wasn't right. No one should live like that. Especially not someone so young, with a child depending on her. You don't have to stay in that place forever, he replied. There are ways out. People who can help. You don't have to be alone. After a moment, she replied, Can I ask you a favor? Not now. Just maybe soon. Anything you need, he answered. Just say the word. That night, he sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the ceiling. His son slept peacefully in the next room. The world outside was quiet, but in another house, maybe not far from his, a young girl was trying to hold herself together, not for war herself, but for someone smaller, someone who trusted her to be strong even when she was breaking. And that thought stayed with him. Not as a burden, but as a purpose. Because sometimes, the world doesn't need another hero. Sometimes, it just needs one person to ask, Are you okay? And then mean it. 2 days passed before she messaged again. He hadn't pushed her. He knew from the tone of her voice, the silence in her words, that everything in her life required careful steps like walking through broken glass. But when her message finally came, it was simple. I think I'm ready. Can we talk? He replied right away. Yes, anytime. Where would you feel safe? She suggested a small cafe near a park, not too close to her home or the store. She said she could only step out for a short time. Her excuse at home would be that she had to pick up something for dinner. He arrived first, sat at a table by the window, and ordered 2 cups of tea. When she entered, her eyes scanned the room quickly. She walked carefully, like someone who had learned to be cautious with every step. She sat across from him. No smile, just tired eyes. She looked even younger than he remembered, and somehow even smaller. I don't know why I'm here, she said softly. You don't have to explain, he replied. You're not here to impress me. Just be real. She nodded slowly, then looked down at her cup. For a while, there was silence. Then finally she spoke. I live with my stepfather. He used to be nice, but after my mom got sick, he changed. He drinks now, a lot. And he gets angry over nothing. He yells, throws things, and when he's really mad. Her voice broke. She stopped talking, eyes fixed on her tea. Her hands began to shake again. She took a deep breath. My mom doesn't know how bad it's gotten. She's too weak. Now she thinks he's just stressed. And my little brother. He doesn't understand any of it. He listened quietly. No interruptions, no questions. I work so I can save enough to leave. But every time I get close, something happens. I have to use the money for medicine or food or school stuff. So I stay and I pretend. She looked up finally. Her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. I don't want my brother to grow up thinking this is normal. He nodded slowly. You're carrying so much on your own. She gave a half smile, tired but real. I guess I'm just used to it. You shouldn't have to be, he said. You're still a kid yourself. She looked out the window as if trying to hold back her tears. I didn't message you for sympathy. I just didn't know who else to tell. He reached into his pocket and slid a folded piece of paper across the table. This is the number of a local shelter. They help girls like you, quietly, safely, and they'll never force you to do anything you're not ready for. She stared at the paper for a long time before taking it. I don't know if I can, she whispered. You don't have to do anything today, he said gently. But when you're ready, they'll be there. And so will I. She nodded. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about how calm she tried to sound when she was clearly scared. How she spoke like she had lived twice her age. And how her hands kept shaking every time she thought about going home. He looked at the small note he had written for her. Just a phone number. A lifeline. In his heart, he hoped she'd use it. But he also knew leaving a life like that was never simple. Fear wasn't just about what might happen. It was about everything you might lose, even if it was broken. The next day, he didn't hear from her. Nor the day after that. Then, just after midnight on the third night, his phone lit up with a message. Can you drive me somewhere safe? Just me and my brother. Tonight. He read the message twice, heart pounding. Double quotes. Yes. Tell me where. She sent an address just a block away from her home. Quiet, dark. She said she would be waiting with a backpack. Just one. He left immediately, told his son's babysitter he had an emergency, and drove through empty streets. When he reached the corner, he saw her standing under a flickering streetlight. Her brother, a small boy with a worn jacket, stood beside her holding a school bag. She opened the car door slowly and helped her brother in first. Are you sure? He asked gently. She nodded. I can't go back. He didn't ask anything else. He just drove toward safety, toward peace, toward a new beginning. The car ride was quiet. The only sound was the soft hum of the engine and the occasional sniffle from the boy in the back seat. She sat in the passenger seat, hands clenched in her lap, eyes staring out the window. Her body was tense, as if expecting someone to come chasing after her at any moment. But he said nothing. He just kept driving, calmly, carefully, toward the women's shelter a few neighborhoods away. When they arrived, the lights inside were dim, but a kind-looking woman opened the door before they even rang the bell. She had short gray hair, glasses, and the kind of gentle smile that made people feel safe without a word. The girl stepped out slowly, helping her little brother carry his bag. She turned back to him for a moment, standing by the car door. Thank you, she said. Her voice was shaking, but not with fear this time, more like relief. He gave a small nod. You did the hard part. I'm just glad you reached out. She took a deep breath. I thought I would be scared, but right now, I think I'm more tired than anything else. He smiled softly. Rest now. You've earned that. The shelter worker guided her and the boy inside. The door closed gently behind them, and just like that, She was safe for the first time in a long time. Days passed. That a week. Then two. He hadn't heard from her since the night she left. He didn't expect to. He had given her the space to choose her own path. All he wanted was for her and her brother to be okay. Still, every time he passed the store, he couldn't help but glance through the glass, expecting to see her standing behind the counter, but she never returned. Then one morning, his phone buzzed with a message from a number he had almost forgotten. "Hi. It's me. I just wanted you to know we're doing okay." He smiled instantly. "That's all I ever wanted to hear," he replied. A few minutes later, another message came. "The shelter helped me apply for school. I'm going to finish my high school diploma. And my brother is starting at a new school next week." It was the first time she had mentioned herself and her future in the same sentence. Months later, she sent one final message. It included a photo. In it. She was smiling, truly smiling for the first time. Her brother stood beside her, holding a small certificate from school. They looked free. Not rich, not perfect, but free. The caption read, "We're not scared anymore." He stared at the picture for a long time. He saved it, not because he needed to remember her, but because it reminded him why small kindness matters. Because sometimes, all it takes is noticing, asking, listening. Not everyone can fix someone else's life. But sometimes you don't have to. Sometimes, people just need to know they're not invisible, that someone saw their pain and cared. He never told many people about her. It wasn't his story to tell. But one day, while sitting at a cafe, he overheard a woman yelling at a cashier for being too slow. The cashier was young, nervous. Her hands shook slightly as she scanned the groceries. And just like before, he stepped forward, but not to scold, just to ask softly, "Are you all right?" Because now he knew even one question could change everything.